In this video, I'm going to go over how to do the pleat. Now you see here is an example of an inverted pleat. So I'm going to go over how to create this, and I'm also going to go over how to create its cousin, the box pleat, which is represented on the other side, right here. So we're going to go over the two different kinds and how to create them. So let's get started. If you're using a pattern, you're going to want to use one that takes your pleats into account. That means there's going to be markings for each individual pleat. So usually there's 3 lines for one pleat. These lines end up meeting in the middle line. I drew up this pattern for this particular project I'm doing. You can't just take a pre-existing skirt pattern that doesn't have pleat markings in it and then just start sewing in pleats. What happens is you're going to be cinching up your waist here and make it smaller than you intend, and all of a sudden your skirt is not going to fit. Now it's possible to insert pleats into a pre-existing pattern that doesn't have one, but that involves cutting your pattern and then inserting another strip of paper in order to take that into account and create your pleat, but we're not going to get into doing that. So I'm just going to show you now how to create the inverted pleat. So to create the pleat on my fabric here, I'm going to need a straight edge ruler, my sewing gauge, fabric marker, and then pins. So let me just remove these because I'm only going to use these 2 items. You draw your first line where you want the edge of your first pleat to be. And then I'm going to make a pretty big pleat for an example. So I'm going to mark my sewing gauge at 3 inches. And then I'm just going to draw a couple of lines here to mark 3 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to bring back my ruler and I'm going to draw another line. So this is going to be the other edge of my pleat. All right, so now we want a line that's directly in the middle of both of these lines. So that's going to be 1.5 inches if we divide 3 in half. And now I'm going to do a couple more little marks with my sewing gauge. Okay, and again I'm going to get my ruler, and now I'm going to draw a line connecting those. Okay, so now I'm going to start at the top of whatever my item is. So if this is a skirt, I'm going to be at the top of the skirt or the top of the curtains, because that's where we're going to be working. So for my first edge line here, I'm going to fold it so that my fabric marking here is directly in the middle, and I'm going to bring it over to this middle line right here, right on top of it, and I'm going to pin it right here at the top, like that. Okay, so that's one part, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to fold it just like that, so my marker is right in the middle of that fold, and then I'm going to bring it right there in the middle, meeting with the other side of this pleat here. And once it's there, I'm going to pin it again like that. So the next step at this point, if this was the pleat that you were making and it was the only one, you would need to just stitch across the top here. If I was doing multiple pleats along this line, I can go ahead, make those pleats, and then sew along the top once I'm done with all of them. That way you don't have to keep breaking out the sewing machine in order to do it. So at this point, I'm now going to show you just doing the opposite of this. You'll create the box pleat. To do the box pleat, we're basically going to be doing the same steps that I just showed you. We just do it on the wrong side of the fabric here. So I've already flipped it over. Here's my wrong side, here's my right side. I went ahead and drew my lines here. So again, I'm just going to fold up this so that the line on the edge here is directly in the middle, and then fold it into that center line I'm going to pin it to straighten that out. And then I'm going to be doing the same on this side. Again, folding it and then folding that fold to the middle, meeting with the other pleat, and then pinning it. So now I'm going to show you the other side so you can see the two examples side by side of each of the different pleats. So this is a very rough idea on how it will look. On the right here, we have the inverted pleat. So you see the folds are coming in at the middle part of the fabric is sunken in. And then here we have the box pleat, which looks exactly like that. You have the clean edges here, and it just goes down in a strip and folded under on the outside. So in order to perfect the look of the pleat, we're going to stitch along the top here, and then we're going to get a very hot iron in order to create a more defined crease at the edge of our pleats. I'm now going to sew along the top of my project here where the top of my pleats are. So here's the edge of my first box pleat. Here's the other edge. And I'm just going to do a regular stitch. If this was like the top of a skirt or something, you can probably just get away doing a basting stitch because it just needs to be tacked down before you put on the waistband. Okay. And then I have my other pleat, my inverted pleat, right over here on the other side. So I'm just gonna, instead of stopping, I'm just gonna go all the way to that pleat. Okay. So then here's my other pleat right here. And usually when I'm doing this, I'm already heating up my iron. So you want that to be as hot as it can get in order to finish this off. So there's my stitch, and now I'm going to take it over to my iron. So now I'm going to iron my pleats, and it's just like before. You're going to fold it. I've already done this one right here. And you're going to fold it so that your marking line is in the middle and it meets that middle of the line again. So you're just going to do it a little bit at a time, and just be very careful with your iron because it should be really hot. And you don't even have to go all the way down to the bottom of your skirt or garment or whatever it is, depending on what kind of a look. Because if I just want a really nice crease up here and then it kind of folds softly down here, you can do that. Just depends on what you want. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom here. Okay. And so your pleat will always be attached at the top, and then it'll slightly open up down here on the bottom depending on what you're making. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same with my box pleat over here. I'm just going to flip it over to do it on the wrong side because it's a little bit easier since that's where my lines are, and then I'll show you the finished product. Over here now I have my inverted crease that's been completed with the iron. And then over here I have my box pleat, and that's how it turns out. You can also, if you want, just stitch along the edge here, maybe a couple of inches, and that'll keep your crease really defined, and it'll just be a little softer as it goes down. But that's how you do the two different kind of pleats.